I couldn't do a series on relationships without talking about breakups. Now, breakups suck. I don't necessarily think anybody really likes them per se. However, breakups can really be a gift. And this story time is going to demonstrate just that. All right, so grab a snack, get comfy, because I'm going to tell you a little story. So, this story can demonstrate several things. It can demonstrate timing because this breakup was a significant it happened during a significant transit, and it can show healing through Chiron. Okay, so I want you to fast forward quite some time. Back when I first began my spiritual awakening, or my spiritual awakening first started, I met many people. At that time, I was a practicing attorney. I had my own practice, and so I was always networking. I was always meeting new people. And coincidentally, the year that I had my spiritual awakening, which was 2012, I met every single one of the men that I would be in long-term relationships with. Now, if you listen to my other story time, when I talk about the craziness of Uranus in my natal chart, I said that pretty much all of my long-term relationships have been friends first. And pretty much all of them I met anywhere between like 2011 or 2010 and 2012. And so one of the people that I met at that time, he was an entrepreneur, and I was working with entrepreneurs at the time, and we became friends and we kept in touch over the years. And he lived in Florida, and at the time I lived in New York. And so when he would come up to New York, we would hang out. When I came down to Florida, vice versa. It was really cool. And then the pandemic hit. And I had actually came down to Florida shortly before the pandemic. And I ended up staying, and long story short, I ended up moving here. But at the time, he had hit me up and was like, "Hey, I'm just checking on people because, the pandemic was one of those times." And he was like, "I really miss you. I haven't seen you at this point. We hadn't seen each other in a couple of years. I really miss you. Hopefully when things, sort of get back to normal, we can link up." And I was like, "Well, actually, I'm down in Florida. I'm kind of here now." So we ended up meeting, long story short, hit it off, and we started dating, and we started dating exclusively. That we really in a serious relationship. We started talking about long-term things or whatever. Now, I'm a Taurus rising. And back in 2018, Uranus entered Taurus. And for any of my other Taurus risings, when Uranus entered Taurus, you may have started to experience an identity crisis or a shift in identity where you are changing your outlook on life. It could literally be you changing your physical appearance. It could be a whole bunch of things related to your body, related to your outlook, or related to how you identify. Okay. And so I was going through an identity crisis, and mine was centered around sort of my old life and my new life. In my old life, I was a practicing attorney. I did all these things. That's what I was known for. I've always been a spiritual person. I've been an astrologer for a long time, but I kind of kept it in the closet for a long time. And as Uranus went through my first house, I was sort of being pushed by the universe because Uranus and Taurus was pushing us out of our comfort zones, sometime like kicking us in the ass. Uranus and Taurus was pushing me to come out of the spiritual closet. And Divine Feminine Works was born from that. This YouTube channel was born from that. These were things that if you had asked me prior to 2020 if I would be doing them, I would have said hell no. And not because there's anything bad with what I'm doing. Clearly I'm doing it now and I love it. It was just something that I had kept hidden. Now, as I am with him, a lot of things start happening, and apart from that, we had gotten into after we had gotten together and when things gotten serious, we decided to have a conversation about spirituality. And lo and behold, I tell him, I'm an astrologer, even though at that time I was kind of hesitant to really put that out there. I'm an astrologer. I have this business, this, that, and the third. And girl, he broke up with me. Broke up with me. When I say I was devastated, I was devastated. He broke up with me because he said, I come from a family that's religious. He comes from a Protestant family. He's like, my mom would have issues with what you do. Some of my friends would have issues with what you do. So he broke up with me. Now, as much as breakups suck, this breakup cracked me wide open in terms of living my life out loud as an astrologer, as a spiritualist, as a healer, finding my identity. Now, I said Uranus was going through my first house of Taurus. First house has to do with body. As a result of that breakup, I started working out like crazy and I ended up losing 50 pounds. I look completely different than I did when I dated this person. My outlook on life was different. And now that Uranus is leaving my first house, I'm fully embodying the person that this breakup helped facilitate to come forward. Now, in understanding things, I understood that we were not compatible, especially when it came to that issue. And that issue was very important to him, religion and spirituality and such. But had I not been with him and subsequently gone through that breakup, I wouldn't have had the fortitude. I wouldn't have been forced to live my authentic life, to live as I authentically am. It cracked me wide open. And that's what breakups typically do. And that's how they can be such a gift. They show us things, they show us the truth. They force us to face who we are, or perhaps they force us to face what a situation is. And then when you do that, you grow. Does it suck in the moment? Absolutely. When I said I was devastated, I literally spent 3 days in bed because at the time I thought that this was someone that I was going to go the distance with. I thought that this was someone that I was perhaps going to marry. I thought that this was someone who we talked about building a life together. And we had been friends for over a decade. So it felt like a natural progression. And then to get to this point and for it to fall apart was significant. It was sort of the universe's way of telling me, listen, you have to live authentically. Because I could have easily, well, not easily, because as he's breaking up with me, he was like, you would have to convert to my religion for like this to be acceptable. And my first thought was, nah, yeah, nah, that's not going to happen. My spirit wouldn't let me do it. I couldn't even entertain the thought of having to suppress myself. And as much as it hurt, it opened the door. It opened a door that needed to be opened. And it allowed me to step into who I really am. And that has been the greatest gift. And I know that sounds like some Hallmark channel type shit, but life can be that way sometimes. And the lesson I learned is that compatibility is a thing, but living authentically is perhaps a greater thing. And living authentically will likely be more important than trying to fit your relationship into a box. And so that breakup was tough, but it was exactly what I needed. And then I even looked better. Like, people were like, yo, what happened? Like, you lost so much weight. What happened? I was like, well, honestly, it was a breakup that really sparked that for me. So I was able to really find myself. And again, it was truly a gift. And it reminds us that it's not just about what's immediately happening. It's not just about the breakup itself, because that's very easy to focus on. And in the beginning, you should focus on it. You should go through all of the emotions that this breakup is providing or that this breakup is bringing up. No one is saying, oh, well, this person broke your heart. Just think about the bigger picture. No, you have to feel that heartbreak. You have to. You have to process it because it's valuable information. I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me that I probably would have suppressed I know I would have suppressed in being with him. And now I see that if I did that, you wouldn't be watching me on YouTube. I wouldn't have worked with so many amazing clients. I wouldn't be spreading this information. I wouldn't have been happy. Let's talk about that. And it's no shade to religion, but that's just not me. And even when before I really identified as someone spiritual, I was Catholic and he had problems with Catholicism too. He was just like, he didn't like anything. He didn't like the fact that I grew up Catholic. He thought that that was a problem. And me being an astrologer, it's like he's basically like to like his family, I would have been like the devil. So I was like, okay, this is not going to work. Even though we had a great friendship, even though we had a great relationship, that fundamental thing meant that the relationship was not going to work. But the fact that that happened during a Uranus transit, and I'm talking about the relationship was going fine after months. We were in the relationship, and then we had this one conversation that completely ended the relationship. As Uranus works that way. Uranus can sudden breakups, sudden makeups, all of those things. But breakups are rebirths, and it reminds me of Pluto. And while you may not be experiencing a Pluto transit, you could experience a Pluto transit in the sense that another planet is transiting Pluto. Meaning, so Pluto's in Aquarius, and Pluto's going to be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. Unless you have Aquarius as your seventh house or your fifth house, or the ruler of your seventh house or your fifth house is an aspect to Pluto, Pluto may not play a part in your relationship story. But let's say the ruler of your seventh house is Mercury. Mercury is gonna pass over Pluto every year, multiple times a year, perhaps. And at that time, you could experience a breakup. Pluto is the planet of endings. That's why I'm referencing Pluto here. So when Pluto does its thing and that thing relates to your relationship story, you could have a breakup, you could have a divorce, you could have a separation. And those things are not only a natural part of relationships, they're necessary. Necessary to sort of get you where you need to be, but more importantly, especially in the realm of Pluto, Pluto speaks to your evolution. When people say, I dated this person and they really prepared me for my husband or my wife. The relationship that they were in before, there could have been something very plutonic about it. Something that allowed you to level up. And when I say level up, I don't mean that this person was on one level and you elevated from them, although that could be the case, but giving you the skills, your personal evolution that gets you ready for the frequency of the relationship that you're meant to be in, or the relationship that will go the distance, right? That's what I mean by that. And of course, breakups suck. Like, who wants them? But again, they can be such a gift. I feel like literally the gift that I received from that breakup that I was talking about before is this. It's Divine Feminine Works. It's this YouTube channel. It's me speaking about these things. Now, if you've been watching me for a long time, when I first started this channel, I was not showing my face. That's how spiritually closeted I was. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this astrology thing. Like you would just see my hands and I would put on the screen like the astrology wheel and what was going on at that time and all of those things. Um, but I wasn't showing my face. And it was literally at the time that I was going through this relationship and subsequent breakup that I started showing my face on my YouTube channel, and that I really started, um, settling into my role as an astrologer and identifying as that and leading with that. Divine Feminine Works was the greatest gift from that relationship, and for that, I am thankful. I'm thankful for him for helping bring that out of me, because ultimately, that's what he did. That's why I find it so odd, and it's not that I don't get it. Relationships hurt, and we experience trauma, we can experience wounds, and when you associate someone with a wound, you curse them, you don't like them, you don't wanna wish them well, you wish that something bad happens to them, you don't want them to move on, right? But when you look at it from the lens of, "This person is showing me something that I need." And this was someone that I loved. This was not like a casual fling or anything like that. And I am the type of person where if I've loved you, if I've been in a committed relationship with you, I'll always love you. There'll always be room in my heart for you. That's never going to bleed into the next relationship. Like it's not going to be an issue where I'm still carrying a flame for you in my next relationship. Nothing like that. But I can't go from I love you to I hate you if I've healed from the situation. And then since then he's gotten married and all of these things. And, as difficult as it was to see at first, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna say, "Oh, I was fine." No, when I saw that, I was like, "Damn, that kind of sucks," right? From my perspective, but I wish him well. But more importantly, I thank him. I thank him for being a part of my personal development. And that's ultimately what relationships are. Because remember, relationships are a mirror. And even when that mirror cracks, because sometimes it has to, invariably it does, it teaches you something and it leaves you with a gift if you're willing to open your eyes to it. So breakups, they're necessary. And, you know, if you're going through a difficult patch in your relationship or if you're like actively in a breakup, of course, astrology will speak to that. You can see what planets are transiting which part of your natal chart. So you can kind of gauge how this perhaps could go. Now, I am someone who I don't micromanage my life on that level. Um, if I'm going through something particularly difficult, I will look at my natal chart and the transit to get a better understanding, but I'm not going to look at it from the lens of, well, if I do this, then this could happen. It's not about micromanaging, it's about understanding and getting the lesson that this particular situation is trying to show me and is trying to teach me. Because ultimately, breakups, like I keep saying, breakups can be your greatest gift. It can leave you with something amazing. Again, if you're willing to heal through them. But I wanted to share that story because it's not only my most recent breakup, but it directly correlates to what I'm doing right now. And also the transit of Uranus, which was pretty profound because that was going through my first house. So let me know in the comments below. Have you experienced a breakup? And were you, of course, we all have, but have you experienced a breakup where you were able to understand and receive the gift that that breakup was able to give to you? I would love to hear your stories in the comments, and I'm sure other people would too. So comment down below. All right. So that's what I got to say about breakups. Now, I don't want this to sound too love and light, spiritual, woo woo. Yes, I was sad. Yes, I was depressed. Yes, there was a time where I did not wish him well. Let's be real. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I immediately got the lesson and I just wished him well. And no, girl, there were days where I cursed him out in my head, where I was so angry at him, where I wanted him back. Let's say that. Full transparency. I wanted him back. I wanted to get back together with him. and we had tried, but it still didn't work. And it was the universe saying, girl, this isn't it. The bigger picture, the bigger purpose of this relationship is your identity shift, and really shifting into who you are meant to be. And he's helping to facilitate that through this short lived relationship and this breakup. So, yes, I'm not going to try to make it seem like I was all love and light and on my high horse. Like, I ugly cried, I did not wish him well, and all of those things. But again, biggest and greatest gift was this. And for that, I'll be forever grateful. All right, my loves, thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.